All right, I'd like to welcome everybody here today for the special board meeting. Dr. Bagwell, would you call roll, please?
Yes, sir. Mr. Fulcard?
Here.
Ms. Lockett?
Present.
Mr. Alfred? Mrs. Rack?
Present.
Mrs. Griffin?
Here.
Ms. LaSalle?
Here.
Mr. Delott?
Here.
Mrs. Black? Mr. Barbier?
Here.
Mr. Verrett? And Mr. Taylor?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. All right, we have one item on the amended agenda that we need to approve at this time. Could I have a motion to do that?
Before we do that, Mike?
All right, Ms. Lockett makes that motion.
No.
Mr.
But before we do that, can we add the public comments? I don't see public comments on the agenda. I do not see a place for the public comments on the agenda. Can we add that?
We have public comment on every agenda item.
Not on this one. It's not written on the agenda as usual.
We will allow public comment on the
We're
agenda
aware
items.
of that.
Okay, but we need.
We are aware of that, but normally it's printed on the agenda.
When do you have it on the agenda?
The law requires that.
We will allow it. It will be on there.
Just want to make sure.
All right, so we need a motion and a second for the amended agenda. Could I have that at this time?
I'll make the motion.
All right, Ms. Griffin makes that motion. Could I have a second?
A second.
All right, Mrs. LaSalle seconds. Any discussion? All in favor of that motion?
Discussion.
Yes.
The amended agenda is with the public comment added. I know what you're adding, the review and adopting,
Right.
but the amended agenda is with public comments added.
We'll allow that as well.
The reference to public comment is at the bottom of page 2.
That a public comment period shall be held before any and all vote is taken on an agenda item. It is included in the agenda, the last item.
Procedurally, we use the cards, and according to Mr. Hammonds during his training, the procedures that we use are accurate.
We voted?
All right, all in favor of that motion, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any disapproved, nay. Motion carries. Next, updates regarding the St. Mary Continuous Learning Plan for reopening schools. Dr. Bagwell.
Thank you. At our last regular meeting in July, you received a copy of the reopening plan, the continuous learning plan for St. Mary Parish Schools. Since then, Bessie has updated Bulletin 741, Chapter 4. And in the Bessie Bulletin, one of the things that is required is that boards actually adopt plans and policies that integrate all of their changes to Bulletin 741. Consequently, that has to be done according to the Bessie Board before the opening of school. Well, our next regular meeting happens after the first day of school. So that was the reason to call the special meeting today, so that you would have an opportunity to do that as directed by Bessie. Additionally, since the July board meeting, the staff of our district, supervisors, program managers, and computer facilitators as well, have been working to train teachers in Microsoft Teams and other resources that we will use as part of the reopening. We have held public forums in an effort to inform the public of various parts of the reopening plan, and we'll continue to do that up until the start of school. So at this time, what we need to do is to pass a policy and adopt our plan in accordance with the changes that were made by Bessie to Bulletin 741, Chapter 4. The public health emergency policy that you have in your packets was provided to us by Forethought. It is a new policy, and it outlines that during this COVID crisis, that the board adopt the regulations of the Bessie board, and that any revisions to our reopening plan be communicated to you by me on a regular basis. We referenced both Bulletin 741, Chapter 4, and the reopening plan in the policy as a means to stipulate all of the aspects that we're required to do as part of reopening in our policy. The plan itself actually outlines in greater detail all of those aspects. The policy is just that, to reference that we are following the guidelines of the Bessie board as we're required to do. So I would ask that we begin by approving the policy on public health emergencies.
Before we do that, we need to allow for any public comment. And I have 3 people that have submitted requests for public comment. First is Patty Meehan.
Good afternoon. My name is Patty Meehan. I am a speech-language pathologist. I work here at St. Mary Parish Schools. I work at Raintree Elementary. I've been a speech-language pathologist for 33 years, and I've been an employee of St. Mary Parish full-time as a speech path for 17. This is my 17th year. I came here, and I'm also a member of SMAE. I'm here today to share with you my concerns about the reopening plan. I know that a tremendous amount of work has been put into it this summer, and I'm not here to dispute that at all. However, I have some real concerns as a service provider, as an employee, and as a human being having to work in this setting. When I heard about the schools were going to be reopening in 2 weeks, it really scared me a lot. And I started doing a little bit of research here and there. And I remember every year when we start school, they hand us a copy of the Teacher's Bill of Rights. And on the Teacher's Bill of Rights document, which is it was a state law, item number 5 says, a teacher has the right to teach in a safe, secure, and orderly environment that is conducive to learning and free from recognized dangers or hazards that are causing or likely to cause serious injury in accordance with revised statute 17:416.9 and 416.16. And I thought, and I remember reading that, and it's posted on the wall at every school, and I thought, going into these schools with all these kids seems like a known danger to me. And so I started doing a little bit more poking around, and that's when I went to the LDOE website and opened their document, the state Strong Start document. And there on page 4, in black and white, it says, school planning for COVID-19. Number 1, given the levels of COVID-19 currently in our communities, schools should plan for and expect that some students will get COVID-19 during the school year. And number 2 says, as a part of their planning to reopen, schools should expect that there will be students who get COVID-19 and that those students will possibly expose other students and staff in the school setting. And I thought, well, this doesn't work for me. I'm not supposed to be forced to go into a setting that has known danger or imminent harm to me as an employee. I started thinking about that, and I thought, I don't understand why my biggest question is, why are we reopening so soon? I've read through the plan all the way through. I've read through every part of it, and as a part of special education and as a speech pathologist, I have individual concerns in that arena, but overall, I'm just I know the plan is, I know y'all worked really hard, but in all honesty, it's unrealistic and it's unachievable. There is no way we're going to be able to keep these kids 6 feet apart or 5 feet or 4 feet. I know that the Bessie board put all kinds of leeway in there, but I was just at my school, and I apologize for my casual attire. I was at my school rearranging furniture in my room. I have a very small room. I usually see kids in groups of 3 and 4. That's not going to happen. There's no way I can keep them 6 feet apart and be safe. Keep them safe, keep me safe. I'm not even sure how I'm going to move them around the school. But there is absolutely no way we can keep these kids separated. There's no way that they're not going to come in contact with each other or with staff. I work in an elementary school. What if a kid needs help with his zipper? What if he falls down and skins his knee? I can't go help that child. How are we supposed to keep these kids safe, and how are we supposed to keep ourselves safe and not share whatever we might have and send those kids home to infect their homes where a lot of my kids live with their grandparents and great-grandparents? The kids are going to be put on buses before they're checked and sent to school where we're supposed to check their temperature after they've arrived and ridden on a bus for however long with a bunch of other kids. They're going to get to school and we have to take their temperature, and then they have to go wash their hands. They got to wash their hands every 2 hours. We have to disinfect everything they touch. We're going to be spending the entire day cleaning and disinfecting everything they touch and them. I don't know how the teachers are going to get any teaching done, and I have no idea how I'm going to provide services. So my question is, why are we doing this so soon? That to me, I am not a person that throws out problems without a solution. And my suggestion, my solution, my plea is to just wait a little bit longer. This parish is opening before any other parish in this state. There's no reason to open this soon. The infection rate, Louisiana is number 2 in infection rates in the country. In the country. Yesterday, this state had more infection rates than ever before. Y'all sent us home in March when the infection rates were here. Now the infection rates are here, and you're telling us to go back in? I have to go into a building? I have spent the last 4 months with a mask on, social distancing, not going out, ordering online, following all the rules. I'm 59 years old, relatively healthy. I live by myself. I have 3 dogs. And I've followed the rules all summer long. And now I'm being told I have to go into a building that's going to have 400 or 500 other people. I don't understand why we have to do this so soon. So soon. Why can't we just wait a little bit longer? Give it a few more weeks. Let's watch the infection rates and see them come down. People are starting to follow the mask mandates and actually wearing their masks out in public and whatnot. Let's get these numbers down to keep us safe. Right now, what I see right now is not a safe work environment. And honestly, that's in direct violation of the law and my rights as an employee. And I don't want to see me get sick. I don't want to see my students get sick. And I don't want to see my students' families get sick or my coworkers. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. All right, next we have another speaker, Mr. Craig Matthews.
Good afternoon, Mr. President, members of the board, administration, staff, and community. For the record, my name is Craig A. Matthews, 1T in Matthews. I reside at 2208 Highway 318, Jeanerette, Louisiana. I stand before you today with many different titles, but the most important one is parent. For the 3rd time in St. Mary Parish, I'm raising a son that I'm trying to safely get out of this school district. No pun intended. But I stand before you today with grave concerns as a parent. Not because of any fault of anybody in this room, but there's something that has been thrust upon us that none of us have any control over. It's something that we simply must respond to in the best way that we can. And the best way that I think we can begin that process is collectively, not in a silo, such as what I've observed in this process, not with an isolated group of people that lack the necessary transparency and inclusion of even what you all have indicated in the policies that have been adopted by this public body as primary stakeholders in this educational process. Parents, other caregivers, and teachers are among your primary stakeholders. And as I scan our community, and as I observe this process of quote, end quote, reopening, I have seen very little to no inclusion of those primary stakeholders in this process. That alone warrants a pause. And I think today, we've been gathered in this room not by accident, but for a divine purpose, to take a pause. Let me preface the rest of my remarks with a few recommendations, strong recommendations for this board. One, at a minimum, I think the process of reopening our public schools should be delayed at least 30 days, if not longer, depending upon what we learn as we finally come and make an attempt to work together within that 30-day period. But at least a minimum of 30 days, this process should be delayed. Number two, I believe that this board should execute its authority and power, despite the numerous times I've heard this board has no power. Let me tell you the power that you have today. Dr. Bagwell stood before you and illustrated it in her opening remarks, that Bessie requires that this board take action and authority in approving her plan. So that's the place where you can demonstrate the first level of responsibility of this public body to put this process on halt immediately and force this administration to go back to the table and this time use the process of transparency and inclusion and bring at least your primary stakeholders to the table to engage in a meaningful dialogue, not like the monologue that we see on KQKI once a week for the last couple weeks. And granted, on yesterday, when it took place at the most inopportune time, when the St. Mary Parish Council was in regular session. We passed an ordinance about 2 years ago that there should be no public meetings held in this parish in conflict with the St. Mary Parish Council's meetings. Now, granted, this board is exempt, as I'm constantly reminded. But I think if we all have the same common best interest of the citizens of our parish, we would want to work together. And we would want to observe at least those minimal opportunities to not conflict with one another. That meeting should not have been held, that forum, as it's called, it was a monologue, should not have been held at the same time the parish council was in regular session. Because we have grave concerns, and those concerns were expressed during our regular session on last night, not just by myself and other members of the council that I work alongside, but we had 3 state officials in our meeting on last night. Senator Brett Arlene, Representative St. Blanc, and Sam Jones, an employee of the governor's office, long-term public official in this parish. And the general sentiment in that meeting was that it is too soon to open these schools. Ladies and gentlemen, let me talk to you for just with the few moments I have left about this thing called choice. Because the feedback that I've gotten, the opposing feedback that I've gotten is that we've given the parents a choice. There's a survey, Craig, that you should have filled out by now. I stand before you unapologetic and unashamed to tell you that I have not yet completed that survey. And the reason I have not completed it is because I feel ill-advised and uninformed to be able to make an intelligent decision. Now, I did express, for those of you that read my email, that I have no intention of sending my child back to that school campus under the current circumstances. But I still don't feel that I've been able to make a qualified decision about my child's academic coursework going forward, because I don't have the benefit of having enough information and understanding of what is embedded in this reopening process and this academic instructional process going forward into the foreseeable future. Now, the document or the instrument that I'm assuming most of you have read, that I intercepted because I was copied on an email from the Department of Homeland Security, because I'm an elected official. I was able to see the instrument that, if I can say this without insult, appears to be a very well put together document that has been, for the most part, copied and pasted from a collection of information from other districts around this country, other school districts around this country. Because I know that not enough thought and effort has been put into that instrument to be able to answer some of the critical questions that we as primary stakeholders have about how this is going to unfold. And what happens if this happens? And we've not been given the benefit of engaging in an intelligent, meaningful dialogue with this public body, with this administration, to ask some of those meaningful questions. That is a violation of our parental and constitutional rights. And it's a violation of your own policies, because you said that you would engage your primary stakeholders in critical decision making such as this. Now, I'm going to tell you, and y'all have seen me up here and heard me before, and I'm going to continue to say it. We have tolerated being ignored and our voices being unheard and being excluded from these processes up to this point. But when it compromises the health, safety, and general well-being of our children and our families, we are simply not going to tolerate it any longer. Something must be done. This process needs to be intercepted. Please, if I was bold and bad enough, I would ask how many of you have actually read and digested this instrument, because I guarantee you that less than 30% of the primary caregivers in this parish have had the opportunity to do so and really interpret it and ask questions about what do these things mean. At a minimum, you all have a responsibility to us to pause, to if it requires interrogation, to interrogate, and to ask the necessary questions to ensure that every single element of the potential risks and the fallback of the decisions that you're getting ready to make are going to have on the people of St. Mary Parish. I understand and fully agree that our children need instruction. I'm a proponent and advocate of education, particularly early childhood education and the process of grooming our young people for adulthood and long-term success. But at what cost? What good are the core competencies if everybody's sick and dying? What good is the instructional material that teachers are being demanded to provide if they're terrified and afraid, such as we heard Miss Patty describe as she came here a few moments ago before me? What good is it if multiple people in this facility are already being diagnosed with COVID-19? You expect me as a parent to trust this system to protect and preserve the health and safety of my son when we can't even protect the people in the administrative office from this deadly disease because of how easily it's transmitted? Yet we were ready to warehouse thousands of young people in an environment where we know it is going to be virtually impossible to social distance them, to have them in an environment that is conducive for the level of learning that we're supposed to be providing and still maintain their health and safety. It is impossible at this time, under these current conditions. I implore you to pause, hit the pause button on this process. Do not approve this plan in its current format, giving your administrator the right to, in my opinion, recklessly open these schools and endanger the lives of thousands of people. Please don't do it, because there will be consequences. Thank you.
All right, we have another person that is asked to speak on the subject. Mrs., is it Brounder?
Good afternoon, St. Mary Parish School Board.
Good afternoon.
This is a hard time, 2020 has opened my vision. I have 2020 vision now. In a sad way, I'm so bifocal. But with this event, I'm with St. Mary Association of Educators, a constituent of LAE, Louisiana Association of Educators, and the National Education Association of Educators. But most importantly, I'm a teacher that loves her students, as most of these educators that I have spoken to within this parish, not just teachers, staff, everyone in the school district, they have grave concerns about coming back. There are some, and I'm the same way, I love teaching, I love my students, but foremost, I love my family, I love my community, and we fear what we can bring back to our homes and spread to schools that we go to. There's greater concern about what will the district use to help provide us. We didn't hear anything about the school district or what have you providing PPEs for teachers and staff to make sure everything is upheld, and we tried to attempt quality care. Right now, I don't believe we're going to have that quality going. We're half stepping into this. We're not walking straight into this right now. I feel we need more time. The kids, I believe they'll still benefit virtual learning. I believe they're learning more just on their computers. They're grabbing more. Sit in a classroom and then in a different element than what they're used to, I believe it could be traumatic to that child, to that school, to the district. Just ask that you please consider this. We've had a survey, as I stated, of numerous employees in the district. Over 80% are fearful of coming back because of the uncertainty. And every day, COVID-19 in Louisiana is changing. It's not getting better. There's a dark cloud over us right now. Are we really, really ready in a matter of weeks to put these children at risk, faculty, staff at risk, the families, the communities of St. Mary Parish at risk? I know St. Mary Parish School Board is better than this and won't leave us to the point where we will be held liable for a disaster that can occur if this school district is opening right now. We're not ready. We're not ready. It's ever changing with this pandemic. We never know what's going to happen next. We're at risk right now. Because there's more work we need to do inside before we open these doors. It's not just coming from staff, it's from parents, because many of these staff are parents as well, and they know the risk. And they're fearful of that, of bringing it to their home from what they get from school. Just please consider, have forethought what this action can do if we open these schools up too soon. Just think about it and what can really happen and what will go down in the books for St. Mary Parish School Board. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. President, it just occurred to me, it might be wise if there's some Clorox wipes. I know I was shouting quite a bit at the mic, to just maybe have somebody wipe that off before somebody else goes up to speak. If there's some Clorox wipes in the building.
Oh, I pulled it out though.
Thank you so much.
Dr. Bagwell, would you like to say something?